Gracias, gracias. 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 Buenas tardes. Hola. ¿Cómo está? I'm afraid that's all I know. So, thank you. Very happy to be in Spain, España, and thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. I have a quick show of hands. How many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah. And who has not yet read the book? Some people, that's good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And please give them a hand too. Thank you. For those who have not read the book, I will give you a little bit of my background. The story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is about my two fathers. I grew up in Hawaii. I'm fourth generation Japanese American. My family came to Hawaii in 1880s. So my way of saying I don't speak Japanese. And I say that because every place I go, people come up to me and they go, oh yeah, so. So anyway, I flunked Japanese, I flunked Spanish, I flunked French, I flunked English, and I flunked Malaysian. I do not do well with languages. So it is ironic that I flunked English because I cannot write. Yet, it's not that I could not write, my teachers did not like what I wrote. All right? So, but the one thing I will say is I do understand the language of money. That's the most important language today. So today, for about 3 hours, I will do my best to explain some of the language of money. Because as you know, in America today, the rich are really rich. And the middle class is falling. And the poor are very, very poor. And the question I always ask people is, what did school teach you about money? So I'll ask you, what did school teach you about money? Nothing. So they tell you to save money, but today interest rates in like Sweden, Japan, and all that below zero. Okay? At the same time, the central banks like the European Central Bank, the American Federal Reserve Bank, the Bank of Japan, Bank of China, they're printing money. And the problem in the world economy today is not you and me. The problem in the world economy is no financial education, and we're run by highly educated poor people. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. President Obama, very good man. Highly educated poor man. Okay. Good man. Hillary Clinton, well. How do you spell crook? C-R-O-O-K, you know? Yeah. And then we have Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is a good friend of mine. I don't have his book up here. Yeah. And I want to say I do not agree with what he said about the Spanish people, Mexican people. I don't like what he says about Muslims, because most Muslims are good people. And I don't agree with what he says about women. Yeah, thank you. Yet he is a very, very smart man in business. He is an entrepreneur. And we wrote this book, Why We Want You to Be Rich, because way back when, we could see the gap between the rich and everybody else. When I was a little boy in the 1960s, everybody talked about we must save the poor. Today we're trying to save the middle class. Middle class is gone. So when Trump is now going to erect trade barriers and all this, he is going to try and save American jobs. I don't think it's going to work, but he has to do something. Okay? So Trump and I both had rich dads, and we think differently. So today, for about 3 hours, and tomorrow we'll have 2 more full days explaining how the rich think. And because you will be receiving financial education, not taught in school. All right? So I thank you for being here, and give you all a big hand, okay, for being here. So once again, Padre Rico, highly educated poor man. He graduated from university in 2 years. He went to Stanford University, University of Chicago, and Northwestern. He has a PhD, but he knew nothing about money. And he ran for governor, lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii as a Republican. Hawaii is called the People's Republic of Hawaii. It is pro-communist. They don't admit it. There is not one Republican in office in Hawaii. Okay? Very, very communist. So my father, not liking that, ran against the Democrat. He lost his job, he lost the election, and he lost his job. So in 1973, when I came back from Vietnam War, my father was unemployed. He couldn't find a job. So a PhD, highly educated, no job. And when I talked to my dad, this is back in 1973, I saw the future. What I saw is unemployment going up. And so as you and I know, in this great country of Spain, your greatest tragedy is the young people without jobs. And still our schools say, go to school, get a job. It's not working. Technology is coming on. There will be fewer and fewer jobs. Already, technology can replace doctors, can replace accountants, and can replace attorneys. Just last month, Adidas, the great shoe company, announced it was going to manufacture shoes in Germany without employees, with robots. And they're going to manufacture shoes, not in Vietnam, but in America, with robots. So the idea of going to school to get a job is a very obsolete idea. Okay? Because Padre Pobre was an employee. He needed a job. He needed a paycheck. He needed benefits. He needed retirement. When it came to money, he knew nothing. So when he lost his job at 50, he was finished. Padre Rico was my best friend's father. No education. He had no education because when he was a little boy, his father died. And so as a little boy, he took over the family business. And he grew the business into this massive, massive business. So when I was 9 years old in Hawaii, I remember raising my hand in class, asking my fourth grade teacher, when am I going to learn about money? And the teacher says, we don't teach you about money in school. And I said, why not? And then she quoted the Bible. The love of money is the root of all evil. And I said, and I asked her if she had a paycheck. She goes, yeah. I said, well, that's money. No. It's a paycheck from the government. No, I said, it's a paycheck from the taxpayer. Oh. The reason I asked the question was in Hawaii, there were rich people, and most of them were white. Okay? And the white people owned the businesses. They owned the plantations, the sugar plantations, the pineapple plantations. So where I went to school, like this would be the school for the white kids. And right across the street was a school for the Asian kids, me. And so because my father didn't fool around, because of where the districts lined up, I wound up going to school here. So I'm sitting in school with my rich white friends. And I'm 9 years old. It was the first time I realized I was poor and I wasn't very smart. What's wrong? And so that's why I asked my teacher, when will I learn about money? So she says, no, we don't teach money at school. So Padre Pobre is head of education for the government. So I go home to Padre Pobre and I said, why don't we learn about money in school? And Padre Pobre said, because the government doesn't allow us to teach it. So today, you will learn what Donald Trump and I were taught and what the rich are taught, which is not taught in school. So I ask you, please keep an open mind, because some of the things you will hear today will sound insane, crazy. Okay? So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what was lesson number 1? Lesson number 1 was don't work for money. Do not work for money. Lesson number 1. Okay? And most people go, but I have to have a job, I have to have money. That's the first thing. So I want you to be aware of that. Because I don't work for money. I don't have a paycheck. That's why I'm rich. And our schools teach you to work for money, to be employee, or a doctor, or lawyer. Rich Dad taught me to be entrepreneur. So you're going to find out today there's rich entrepreneurs and poor entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs are poor. Again, because of no financial education. All right? So please keep an open mind today, because I'm going to say things, and my friends and I, that may not make sense. I don't want a paycheck. I don't need a paycheck. If you can not need a paycheck, you have a better chance of getting rich. Also, I am not Republican and I'm not Democrat. Trump may be my friend, but I don't care about politics. Politics is corrupt. Have you ever noticed most politicians come into office poor and leave very rich? That's why Donald Trump takes no paycheck. He doesn't need the money. Obama and Hillary needed the paycheck. Very different mindset. Good people, but mindset is different. So that's what you'll be learning today, okay? So we're going to cover as best we can today. Then tomorrow and the next day, Saturday and Sunday, will be more details. So anyway, that's basically my background. I studied from my rich dad. And what you'll learn today is some of the things my rich dad taught me. And when I came back from Vietnam, I was a pilot in Vietnam. Padre Pobre said, become a pilot, but that would be an employee. Okay. So Rich Dad said, don't be like your Padre Pobre, become an entrepreneur. So that's why I don't need money. And so I was 25 at the time. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to listen to Padre Pobre and go fly for the airlines? Or was I going to be an entrepreneur, not need a paycheck? Okay, that was the choice. And my Padre Pobre wanted me to go back to university, get my master's degree and my PhD. And my father was unemployed with his PhD. He should have told me, go get my PhD. I said, PhD stands for poor, helpless, desperate. So I didn't go back to get my master's or my PhD. Instead, I took a 3-day real estate course because Rich Dad said, real estate is wealth. Those that control the real estate control the world. And you will find that today. So I do not, most people invest in the stock market. I don't invest in the stock market. I also don't pay taxes. And I don't use my own money. Why? Real estate. So I'm not saying you should invest in real estate, but if you understand the word real estate from Espanol, real estate is real, royal estate. Royal estate. That's why the rich invest in real estate. Okay? Royal. Even today. Even in cyberspace, it's called intellectual property. Real estate. All right? So it's very, very different. So again, I ask you that you have an open mind for the next 3 hours, and hopefully you'll see some things a little bit differently. But the biggest thing you might need to question: what did school teach you about money? Why didn't they teach us about money? And what do you have to learn? Because it's opposite of what you're taught in school. All right? So is everybody here willing to have an open mind for the next 3 hours? Raise your hand. Good. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you. So, the word education, there is no financial education in school. The reason there's no financial education is it goes to this here. Okay. Padre Rico said there's 4 types of people in business in the world, anywhere. Spain, US, China, Japan. There are employees. Employees have a mindset. Employees all over the world say the same thing in their head. I want a safe, secure job with a paycheck and benefits and a pension. They all say the same things. Japanese, Espanol, American, Filipino. Okay. And this is small entrepreneur, small business, or a specialist like a doctor, lawyer, attorney, real estate agent, massage therapist, web designer. S means small, self-employed. These people violate Rich Dad's lesson number 1. They work for money. These are the people that pay the taxes. That's why you don't work for money. Okay? These people don't pay taxes. In your country, in my country, it's the same. How many people know the rich don't pay taxes here? Good. Today, you will find out why and how they don't pay taxes. Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes. Okay. Why? Real estate. Royal estate. Real. Okay? And these people are big business. So this would be like I own a clothing store in downtown Barcelona or Madrid. This is Zara. Different mindset. This is a person with a small restaurant. This is McDonald's. This is a small person with a coffee shop. This is Starbucks. Okay. So today, the reason you want financial education is without financial education, you can't come over here. So today I'll be giving a little bit. I encourage you to keep learning more, because today the world's changing very fast. And those who are not studying are falling behind, right? So this here is very important here. This is called the Cone of Learning. It was written by a man, created by an educational psychologist named Edgar Dale. In 1969, Dale wanted to find out how you and I learn. How do we, as human beings, learn? And what Dale found out, if you look here, the worst way to learn is via reading. The second worst way to learn is via lecture, what I'm doing now. How many people, when you were in school, were sitting there, the teacher's talking, but you're gone, your brain is gone? Yeah. Please don't leave yet, I'm not finished. So this is the difference. Padre Pobre was here. He always says, go to schools to get a job, go to schools and get a job. You gotta read, and you do. And I do go to classes and I do listen to lecture, but it's the worst way to learn. And when I was 9 years old, Padre Rico started teaching me my financial education playing the game Monopoly. Okay. How many people in this room have played Monopoly? Good. It is one of the best games in the world to learn to be rich. So when I was 9 years old, I'd leave school, I'd go to Rich Dad's office, he had a hotel and restaurants, and I would work for him for about half an hour for free. He says, if I pay you, you will think like an employee. Entrepreneurs work for free. Don't take that paycheck. So I said, okay. So I'd work for about a half an hour, and then Rich Dad would break out the Monopoly board game, and we'd play Monopoly. So for months, we'd just play Monopoly, having a good time. And then one day, I finally asked my Rich Dad, I said, why are we playing Monopoly? And he said, I thought you'd never ask. No, I'm glad you laughed, but that's a very important question. He says, the problem with most people, they go to school and they just do as they're told. Don't ask questions. He says, I was never going to tell you until you asked. Most people go to work, oh, my job, sweep the floor. Okay, sweep the floor. Oh, do the accounting. Do the accounting. They don't ask why. So I finally asked Padre Rico, I said, why am I playing Monopoly? And he says, good, ask the question. He says, there are many ways to get rich, many ways. But one of the best ways is found on the board game Monopoly. Uh-huh. And what is that? He says, figure it out. I kept looking at it. And finally I started to see it. I said, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I said, is that the secret? He goes, yes. And then all of a sudden the head goes, oh. Because Rich Dad used to take me, because he was not a rich man yet, but he had a lot of greenhouses, a lot of houses. And he said to me, someday these greenhouses will be a big red hotel. So I was 9 years old. When I was 19, I went to school in New York. When I was 19, I came home from school in New York, and Rich Dad owned the big red hotel right on Waikiki Beach. He had gone from a poor man to a very rich man in Hawaii in 10 years. That hotel just sold last year. He paid $1.2 million for it. It was a lot of money back in 1968. He just sold it for $800 million. Tax-free. So, the point here is this. When you look up here, again, Padre Pobre, reading and lecture. Up here is simulation. This is the most important thing about learning. You cannot learn without making mistakes. It is impossible to learn without making mistakes. So this here is called a simulation. Another word is called games. Monopoly is a game. Then the best way to learn is you do the real thing. The reason so many people are poor is because our school system, your school system, my school system, teaches us not to make mistakes. Think about that. The reason most people will never be rich, because in their heads, they were taught that making mistakes make you stupid. In reality, making mistakes makes you smart. The reason most school teachers are poor is because they don't make mistakes. They memorize, they read, they have the answer, but they can't do a thing. That's why. If you think about it this way, when a baby learns how to walk, the baby is sits there like this and falls down. Baby cries, you know. One more time, goes up, 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 falls down, cries. They fall down, stand up, fall down, stand up, until they can walk. That is education. That is learning. The reason Messi makes so much money is because he practices more than he plays. Well, the soccer players do. If you want to be the best guitar player, you practice, 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 practice. You want to be a great chef, you practice, 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 practice. But our school systems tell you, stupid, 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 you made a mistake. Don't make mistakes. Padre Pobre fell down once. He couldn't stand up. All of his life, until he was 50 years old, he had been teaching thousands of young people not to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you're stupid. It's not true. It's the other way around. Okay? So if you're going to learn, you must make mistakes. So that's why, how many people have ever played my board game Cash Flow? Gracias, lots of you. This game was designed for you to make mistakes. Play it over, over, over. When my wife and I, Kim, designed this game, it was designed with 150,000 different possibilities in it by the computer. So I meet people, oh, I played the game once, I know the game. Fuck you, you know this game. And I play this game every day in my head. You know, like soccer players are always doing this every day. Rich people are playing this game every day in their head. It's called practice. That's how we get smart. Your school system, my school system, is criminal right now because it punishes young people for making mistakes. Okay. In Latin, the word, or in Roman times, the Roman word for education was games. Romans taught via playing games. They want you to make mistakes. Think about that. Okay. Very, very important. So if you want to become richer tomorrow, even if you played this game, we'll play this game once. Next day we'll play it again. My wife Kim and I created this board game in 1996. So you could take this game home and you could teach your friends and your family over and over and over. Every time you play the game, different situations pop up. And you handle it differently each time. There's no right answer. It's just how you play the game. Okay. Kim and I created this game because we saw this crisis coming. So today, all the way throughout the world, all over the world, there are tens of thousands of little cash flow clubs. And it's people sitting around teaching people how to get rich by playing the game. Having fun, making mistakes, helping each other. They do not play this game in school. They want you to be over here reading books and memorizing, listening to boring teachers. Okay. So how many of you have children? Good. You know, please consider getting this game. Teach your children. Teach your children. Because the schools will never teach them. Okay. I found that out years ago. It's not a mistake. There's no education. There's no financial education in school. Because the rich want employees and doctors, lawyers, and accountants. These are the rich over here. They need these people. The trouble is, as you know, there's no jobs. And with technology coming on, there'll be less jobs. So that's why this game was created 11 years ago now. Okay? People can teach people. There's no right answers, there's no wrong answers. You just play the game rather than just do as you're told. Why would you save money today with interest rates so low? In 1970, when I was out of school, interest rates were 15%. Okay, so if I had $1 million in the bank, I got $150,000 interest. Back in 1970, you could live on $150,000 a year. Today, I can't live on that much. So today, $1 million a year in America, you might get $15,000. That's how much $1 million is worth. And they still tell you to save money. Fuck you. You're a lovely crowd. In America, they throw me out by now. I'm not very religious either, but anyway. So anyway, again, this is, human beings learn the worst this way, learn the best this way. When I was in flight school, flying for the Marine Corps, every day we'd read a little bit, we'd listen to lectures in the morning. I was in Florida, learning how to fly, getting ready for Vietnam. So we'd read, study. In the afternoon, and we'd fly around the sky, come back. Next morning, study, afternoon, fly. That's how you learn. Okay. And every day in flight school, they cut the engines. So we had to learn to fly without an engine. Every day. So from Florida, after 2 years, I went to California for advanced training. Then they put the guns on my aircraft then. Once I could fire and shoot, I was ready for Vietnam. But even with guns on the aircraft is now different. It's heavier. So again, they cut the engines and we had to practice. So I got to Vietnam. All my aircraft loaded with guns, flying into Vietnam. I lift off. Engine gauge goes like this, just like they said in school. Oh, God. And engine quit. I was now doing the real thing. Aircraft goes like this. Most pilots die because when the aircraft is going down, they pull back. That's why people fail in business. When times get hard, they pull back because they're afraid. It is natural. But you're trained in the military, when the engine quits, you push forward. That's the secret to life. When you're so afraid, you push forward. So I still remember, I was up at about 1,500 feet, the engine quit, and everything in my body said pull back. But we've been trained so well, because we practice, that push the nose forward. And that's the only reason I'm alive today. Because you push forward. It's the same in business. Okay? All of you can do it. But it takes practice. All right? Give yourselves a hand. So one more thing about this that's different than school. Like I said, Padre pobre, Padre rico. Over here, discussion. My father said, my Padre pobre, when he had money problems, and everybody has money problems. How many people in this room have money problems? Everybody does. Everybody has money problems. What makes the difference is how you solve the problem. Okay? That's the difference. Like when I had no money, big problem. And when I started my first company, no money, big problem. But I solved it. My company went up, business went down. Now I had no money, I had negative money. I was now down about $700,000. I owed all my investors money. Big problem. The only difference I'm still doing well is how I solve the problem. So when I was a little boy, I would see Padre Pobre all by himself at night trying to pay his bills by himself. He had more bills than money. But because in school they say you cannot ask for help. If you ask for help, it's called cheating. You know, on tests, you cannot ask for help. So Padre Pobre never asked for help. Never. He sat there by himself. I'm a PhD, no financial education, He never asked for help. Then I go see Padre Rico. Every month, on a Saturday, he held a meeting for breakfast. And at the table was his banker, his attorney, his accountant, his real estate broker, his stockbroker, his general manager, his administrative assistants. And he would sit there and he'd say, "These are my problems." And the people at the table would discuss how to solve the problem. That's why Rich Dad got richer. He had no education, but he surrounded himself with very smart people. Poor Dad had to be the smartest person. So I faithfully say to you, I am here today not because I am smart, but because I have smart people around me. And our schools teach you to take the test by yourself. Don't cheat. When I looked at my Padre Pobre's teacher's manual, it said, cheating. Definition of cheating is giving aid to someone in need. That's called being a human being. Okay? That's the difference. So today, I'm going to ask you every so often to cheat. And what I mean by that is participate in a discussion. So if you participate in a discussion, you will retain 70% of what I've just said. If I just go on and keep talking like most school teachers do, you'll retain less than 20%.